do the essay function.
Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be current or a former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 speeches from either their traditional or pathways programs, or you must have substantial relevant presentation experience that you demonstrate in 3 to 5 minute speech delivery during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to board approval. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members and often guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language and word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording this meeting. Your video audio contributions may be used for our club marketing purposes. Please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. And today's theme is Campaigns Lincoln, and this too shall pass away. Never fear. Please welcome our presiding officer of the evening, VP Krishna Ramchum, DTM.
Thank you, Mr. Soderset Ohms, and thank you for the kind welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for online presenters on this Monday evening of May 2021? Yay, thumbs up or heart or move your hands crazily. Yes, I cannot share my excitement because I will wake everyone at home, but I'd like you to bring your excitement, bring your energy, bring your fun, because today we have our incoming VP Education for 2021-2022. I'm so relieved he is incoming and he's here. He's going to be our Toastmaster. He's going to be leading us on this meeting in this journey for the next hour or so. Please shake crazily or clap madly for our Toastmaster of the meeting, Andrew Byrne. And Andrew, watch out for the Zoom chats coming towards you. Over to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Christian. At this point, we're going to take a moment with Lou Brown before we introduce all the stuff that's going to be going on today and the team of people helping us. Lou, you have the stage.
Thank you, sir. Mr. VPE. Oh, I see that I have screen share capability. First, folks, we are going to do a new member induction for those of you who heard Hector introduce himself. He also mentioned this is his first meeting as a new member. Bear with me one moment here. Okay, is everyone, hopefully you're able to see my screen. Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, on behalf of online presenters Toastmasters, it is my duty and privilege to induct Hector Cabrera Farjat. Hector, I do hope I pronounced your last name correctly. If not, please correct me. Into our club. This is an important occasion, both for Hector and for our club. As experienced speakers and Toastmasters, this individual will enrich us as we strive to enrich him. In a spirit of sharing and enjoyment, together we expand our effectiveness as dynamic leaders, presenters, and communicators. Now, Hector, please wait until I call on you to affirm your commitment to the Toastmasters promise. In the presence of fellow online presenters, do you, Hector, pledge to attend meetings regularly and prepare for each assignment, to actively participate in club activities, to evaluate others in a positive, constructive manner, to build open, friendly relationships with our fellow members, and to bring other new members into the club so that they too can gain the benefits of Toastmasters? Hector, please unmute and say I do.
Oh, yes, I do.
Thank you, sir. To you, the current members of Online Presenters, I remind you of your pledge to support Hector in his quest for self-development, to provide him with positive, helpful evaluations, to maintain a friendly, supportive atmosphere, and to make to make his Online Presenters Toastmasters membership a rewarding and fulfilling experience. Congratulations, Hector. Welcome to Online Presenters. Folks, feel free to unmute yourself and give Hector a warm round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome,
Welcome, Hector.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Very
It's my
excited.
homie, amigo.
Oh boy, Hector, I think that is the loudest welcome I've heard so far with all of our new members. So again, welcome. Mr. Toastmaster, I do have an announcement to begin. I'd be happy to just jump right into that since I have the floor, if you don't mind.
Sounds great. Go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. Folks, I believe Christian had mentioned either, I guess, right before we started, or I think actually during his introduction as presiding officer, about our upcoming VTMCon Virtual Toastmasters Conference in late June. I know he gave you something of an overview. To give you a few more details in reference to why I have this announcement, we're going to have several speakers over the 2 days, and in between those speakers, because as you can imagine, having speakers go for 4 hours long can be a little draining on our prefrontal cortex part of our brain. So we're going to have these little sessions in between the speakers for a bit of relaxation and just to kind of spice things up. I am responsible for the online presenters breakout session, of which there will be 12. I am gathering a team this Wednesday. Some of those folks are already on the membership subcommittee, and I'm looking for other folks to help. We also have a few other folks that have previously raised their hands that I have reached out to. I am looking for some additional folks to help us brainstorm. This is merely to solidify what we're going to do, provide a little bit of content for the program. The actual work of putting something together will be done in June. However, again, keep in mind this is a kind of a relaxing exercise activity, nothing too heavy, so I don't anticipate the content to take a lot of effort and time. If you are interested in helping our team out, we'd love for you to do so. I'm going to put my email in the chat box. Please send me an email. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Lou. We will all look forward and counting down the days to June. This meeting could not take place without the cooperation and active participation of our wonderful members. Let me go through and introduce the roles for this meeting. First, the timer today is Antoinette Trim, and take your opportunity to put her picture in the corner on the top of your screen. That way, when you go between speaker and gallery, she will always be in the top left-hand side, and you will see where the timer is at all times. Go ahead. Please tell us what the timer does, Antoinette.
Good evening once more, and I'm happy to be the timer for this meeting. And I believe speakers 1 and 2, they are doing the introductory speeches, so they will be timed between 4 to 6 minutes. At 4 minutes will be the green. At 5 minutes will be the yellow. And at 6 minutes will be the red. And they'll have 30 seconds to wrap up. Emily, Toastmaster Emily, she has rather 5 to 7 minutes speech. So at 5 minutes will be green, 5 minutes will be green, at 6 minutes will be yellow, at 7 minutes will be red, and again 30 seconds. The table topics, as well as the evaluators, I believe every one of those people know their time limits, and it will be green, yellow, red. Back to you, Toastmaster Vide and Dibuli.
Thank you very much, Antoinette. Our next helper on the team is counter position. April, Elise, can you tell us what the counter does?
Thank you, Toastmaster. My role as the counter is to listen for crutch words such as and so, and you know, among many others. These crutch words and filler words undermine our message and distract our audience. I will listen for these crutch words and filler words along with word repeats and false starts. When called upon, I will give my report. Thank you, Toastmaster.
Sounds fantastic. Our next role is that of the grammarian. Marianne Grady, can you tell us what the grammarian does?
It is my job to listen carefully, and I will be listening for verbal faux pas and grammatical gems. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. We also have somebody watching everything that's being done, the equivalent of the body language monitor. David Carr, can you tell us what the watcher is doing?
Yes, as you do whatever you do tonight, I will be looking, I may be ogling, I will be staring, I will be watching you like a hawk. We will be observing what you do in terms of body language, whatever body language you can fit in this little square, as well as how well you use any other visual effects or slides or green screens or laser beams, whatever you might want to work into the presentation tonight. We'll be looking at whether you use it effectively in support of your message, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. The next role we have is the chat monitor. You don't often have this in a regular meeting, but we have this in the online environment. Chat monitor today is Lucas. Can you tell us what you do, Lucas, in this role?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As the chat monitor, I will be focusing on what information comes through on the chat. If you have any insights or anything like that, feel free to post them and I will extract the gems in tonight's chat and report back on them towards the end of the meeting. Like I said, if you have anything insightful, go ahead and post it in the chat, but be careful not to post it as speakers are speaking. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Tonight we have the vote counter being Richard Durling. When it's time to vote for the speakers, table topics, or evaluators, please send to Richard Durling and see where he is on your screen right now, your private message of who you think did the best job in those three capacities. Go ahead, Richard, tell us your role.
Good evening, everybody. I'll be your vote counter tonight, and I will do everything I can and be resilient in counting the votes carefully. I ask that you do me a huge favor and give me complete names, and it would help also if you just told me what you're voting for. So if you're voting for best speaker, say best speaker and full name. I very much appreciate all of your help in making this possible. Thank you.
Right. We've now introduced all of the people that are making this meeting take place effectively, and we are now prepared for our first speaker. So let me pull up the intros that I have for everybody here. Okay. And the first speaker that I have on my list on the agenda is Carol Pruzinski. And let me go through her introduction. Carol is going to be doing Persuasive Influence Level 3, Increasing Knowledge. Today, our sponsor and charter members will reintroduce herself with an icebreaker speech. Our
Andy,
speaker
it's an icebreaker speech.
Okay. An icebreaker speech.
You said level 3.
Okay. That's what it has over here. It's an icebreaker speech. Okay, our speaker continues to use and upgrade her original icebreaker speech in her classroom at Michigan State University each semester, yet her students don't provide the thorough feedback that she knows our evaluators will provide. Please join me in welcoming Carol Prahinski doing her icebreaker speech.
Woohoo! Thank you, Andy. And what an amazing introduction. All right, so who am I? Where am I from? And what am I about? Those are the 3 questions that everybody wants to know when they get to meet you. Am I right? So today I'm going to answer those 3 questions. As your professor, I want to share with you some of my photos as well. This photo was taken at the international boundary between Canada and the US. It is the International Peace Garden, the only place in the world that is owned by 2 countries. So how do you pronounce my name? I saw Andy pronounce it 2 different ways today, but I'm going to help you pronounce my name in the best way possible. Dr. Carol Prahinski. You speak with phonics? Carol Prahinski. No, not phonics? Well, I get you. Not everybody does phonics, but what about images? Would that help? All right. Prahinski. Pink bra, pink bra, pink bra. Pra. Hen. Cluck, 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 cluck. Ski. Yeah, Prahinski. Now you're never going to forget it, right? So where am I from? Where am I from? I grew up in Washington, well, just outside of Washington, D.C. in Bethesda, Maryland. Great place. Graduated from there, moved on to University of Delaware, majored in supply chain management. Excuse me. And loved the field. Got my first job where? Boston. I worked in Cambridge, Massachusetts for a candy company called Nabisco. Ding. Nabisco. We made Junior Mints, Charleston Chew, Sugar Daddies, Sugar Babies, Pom Poms, which are now called Junior Caramels, chocolate covered raisins, and chocolate covered peanuts. It was a very dangerous factory. My first year, I had 3 cavities. Dangerous, yes. I worked there for 5 years, promoted 3 times, and earned my MBA. Yes, I was a go-getter. I still am. If you haven't figured that out, yes. So after the 5 years, I said, okay, I'm ready for the next challenge. I ended up taking a position with Ocean Spray Cranberries. I worked there for 4 years and I went nowhere. I was ready for the next job. So when things don't always happen, sometimes you have to create your path. So I made the decision with a little bit of fear and my mother freaking out to quit my job. I decided to bicycle across the United States in 93 days, 4,600 miles on a Trek 520, which is a touring bike. Loved it. Went with 10 other people ranging in age from 25 to 66, representing 4 different countries, along with the United States. After that trip, I ended up looking at PhD programs and applying and getting accepted at the Ohio State University, where I majored in operations management with a minor in supply chain and a minor in industrial engineering. After my 5 years there, practicing teaching and so forth, I got an offer in Canada, in London, Ontario, working for the University of Western Ontario, writing lots of publications, doing lots of research, and writing business cases and winning awards. Woohoo! Yeah. And after 5 or 6 years, I decided, you know what? I'm not sure I want to stay here. And right before I made the decision to leave, that's when I met my future husband. Yep, he's there in London, Ontario, and I was on my way out to East Lansing, Michigan. I moved here in 2007, carried on a cross-country dating, which was interesting. And we eventually got married. He was able to immigrate to the United States, and we lived happily ever after. Well, it's always hopeful that way. Over the period of time, we ended up also getting a house in Florida, and we're now in Key West for part of the year. Woohoo, love it. So where have I not been? In the United States, I visited 49 of the 50 states. Which one have I not been to? All right, you got it? It's Alaska. All right, what about Canada? Anybody? All right, I've been to all of these provinces or territories in Canada. Yep, I missed a few. Someday I'll get back there. And what about these countries? Anywhere else in the world? These are places I spent at least 2 weeks. At least 2 weeks. Wonderful countries. Loved it. And these are places I spent at least a week. I love traveling, love going all over the world, interacting with people, saying hello. And then I was introduced to Toastmasters. Toastmasters transformed my life and enabled me to connect better with my audiences. It enabled me to connect so strongly that I started winning teaching awards for teaching, not just my research, but for teaching. I moved up in the leadership. I didn't think I was a good leader. That's a whole nother story. But in my leadership, I moved up and eventually became international director for Toastmasters. Wow. This place is where leaders are made. I was made here in Toastmasters. So what am I about? I'm a high go-getter, if you haven't figured that out. I am always pushing myself to continue my learning. And you know what? When push comes to shove, I keep trying. And that's one of the things, perseverance is one of the things that enables me to be successful in my life. And with that, I want to thank you for a great opportunity to introduce myself. I wish you a very good day, no matter which day you happen to be in. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Carol. Fantastic. Our next speaker is Hector Cabrera, Farjat, and he is having his opportunity to do Mastering Fundamentals, an icebreaker. And the question, title of his speech is, how did I get here? Our next speaker joined our club May 3rd. We've seen him show up as a guest in a few minutes, and perhaps you might now know that he's from Mexico. How did a boy from a town in Mexico end up in Evansville, Indiana, and in our club? Let's find out. Please help me welcome Hector to the screen. Go ahead, Hector. The stage is yours.
What would you do if after working extremely hard for a long time to get somewhere, and when you finally arrive, you discover you really don't like it at all? Dear fellow Toastmaster, Mr. Toastmaster, and distinguished guest, I was not supposed to be here. Ever since I was 6 years old, I had one thing clear in my mind: to become a chemical engineer. Why? In part because it was so intriguing how you could bring such different ingredients, bring them together with some heat, pressure, and add some additive, and voila, you get a complete different thing to fuel your car or build your house. However, the most important reason why I wanted to become a chemical engineer was because I admire my mother's brother, and he was a chemical engineer. I just wanted to become like him. I had a lot of things in common with my uncle: the love of classical music and the insatiable hunger to devour books and learn about everything. Yes, I am a nerd. My parents used to joke I was born in the wrong house. My parents had a grocery store. In fact, they still do. My father is 81 and he's still behind that counter. I grew up working with him, starting at age 8. Every afternoon, every school break, vacations, weekends, Sundays, all talk about a hard job. I hated it. My parents, with the best intentions in their heart, used to tell me, Hector, you gotta move to the big city and study hard and get a university degree, and you don't have to be a slave of this store. They had such high expectation. I was going to be the first generation college graduate. They wanted me to become a leader in a multinational company and travel the world. And I embarked in that journey. It was not easy, I must confess. In 1994, the Mexican economy came to crumbles. The tequila effect, it was called. My family lost it all. There was no money left to go to college. If I really wanted to study, I had to find a way. I studied really, really hard and get accepted to a public university where about 90% of students get rejected. I had to work weekends and mornings and vacations to afford to share a room with other 6 students in a 50 square meter apartment in a public house complex in Mexico City. living between the open sewage channel and the train tracks going to the industrial parks. I remember walking at night after 10 p.m. several miles along those train tracks to get home, study, sleep a few hours, and just get to work in my morning shift the next morning. But all of that paid off. I graduated magna cum laude, and I was the valedictorian of my class. My parents were so proud. And the company had been working half-time for the past 2 years, immediately hired me. During the next 10 years, I worked in sales and marketing for ExxonMobil and General Electric, two behemoths of the SP 500 index. And finally, 8 years ago, just as I was starting to build my family, SABIC, the second largest chemical company in the world, brought me to Evansville, Indiana, as an expat to manage one of their product lines for building and construction. Oh, I was living the dream. That is my parents' dream. I was traveling like crazy, 75% of my time, everywhere in between Canada and Argentina, every country in between. The family I had just started with my beautiful wife, Dulce, and my two little kids were alone most of the time. I had become another slave, a different kind, the one that doesn't own his shackles, his business. I realized how I come here just as I planned, but I was not happy. And then when I was looking for some inspiration to cheer me up and help me see things in a different way, I stumbled on a recording of a very famous speaker called Les Brown. Oh, I just wanted to be like him, speak in front of thousands of people and touch their souls. There was just a little problem. I didn't know how. I was used to speaking in front of architects and customers and salespeople, but connecting at an emotional level, oh, that's a very different thing. But then he said it, the best kept secret in the world, join a Toastmasters club. And this is why, fellow Toastmasters, I am here to become a professional speaker. And I strongly believe online Toastmasters presenters will help me to get there. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Hector. Antoinette, can you tell us the time requirements for our next speaker? The last two speakers were icebreakers, and it's different for the next speaker. Can you tell everyone how much time the next speech is?
Next speech is for 5 to 7 minutes.
Thank you very much. And you can reset your light to empty there. Emily Thompson is going to be speaking to us as our next speaker. Presentation Mastery, Level 2, Learning Your Style, Effective Body Language. Emily Thompson teaches a number of biology courses at a community college in the United States. She loves labs so much, she found a way for you to perform a common molecular biology technique at home, even during a pandemic. Get ready for the fun and easy DNA extraction from strawberries lab. If doing this with children, be sure to supervise them throughout. Help me welcome Emily Thompson. This is a great talk to be had, and I turn it over the stage to Emily.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to help you in case you've ever wondered how DNA and RNA are extracted and processed to make our vaccines so relevant to today's discussions. We're going to do a very simple DNA preparation. I'm going to try to do it approximately live and ongoing here. And our topic for today is extraction from strawberries. I have a United States commercial strawberry, and why the heck am I using strawberries? I have two reasons. The first reason is strawberries have 4 times the DNA per cell as are found in human cells. That means if I extract DNA from a strawberry, I'm going to get 4 times the amount of DNA. as if I did a swab of my cheek. So it's going to be easier to extract. The other reason is I've been practicing all day, and I have to say, if you drop your samples on your feet, you still smell really good. I have, hopefully I have dropped in the chat, or will be dropping in the chat, your list of your materials and then also the procedure. And I'll be going through that. If that didn't go through, I'll put it in after my speech. You're going to gather your supplies as your first step, and you're going to place your rubbing alcohol into the freezer of your refrigerator for 5 hours before you can do the experiment. And again, you have to keep this out of the reach of children. Children as young as 3 could do this with you with supervision. Next, you're going to take 3 strawberries from the store. You're looking for the big red ones, and you are going to hull them, which means you take off all the green leaves. You place them in a Ziploc bag, burp out the air, and then you're going to mash them. And I'm just mashing them with my hands. And you can see why your kids are going to like this. So you're going to mash them, and that's going to be for 2 minutes. If you are a video replay person, you can turn off your video. Now that we're back from squashing our strawberries, you can see that what I have is some mashed strawberries in the bag, and I have made a cell preparation. The cells are all separate, one from another, but we want to get inside the cells. We want to burst the cells and burst the nucleus where the DNA is, and we want to release it into the solution. And so we're going to have you make a DNA extraction solution. I'm using an old olive jar. And to make this, you put in ½ a teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of dish detergent, like you hand wash your dishes with, and a 1/3 cup of water. You're going to use your tablespoons, and you're going to put 3 tablespoons into your extraction here. And you're now going to mush that for 1 minute. Video replay audience, you may stop your video. Now that you've finished your DNA extraction, we have your actual cell extract. And your cell extract here, we had the detergent actually opened up the cells. It busted membranes. It opened the cell, it opened the nucleus, and in here we have cell debris, and we have the guts of the cells, including DNA and RNA and proteins and all that cool stuff. At this point, we're going to have to assemble our next unit, our DNA filtration unit. And you could do this with stuff you have around the house. I've washed out an old spice jar, and I have a thin neck funnel that I have placed into the spice jar. And I have 4 thicknesses of cheesecloth, or you can use a coffee filter, that I've placed in the filter. Now, if you imagine that your bag of cell extract has a north, a south, an east, and a west, like all the stuff is down in the south. So with your scissors, that's on your supply list, you're going to cut a small fragment off the east corner of your bag, for example, and you're going to pour it into your filtration unit. Okay, this is where it gets all over your feet. That's why I'm standing. All right. If you're a video replay audience, we'll join you in just a minute. I've now completed the filtration, and here is the mess, but it smells great, you know. And the filtration has been made through the cheesecloth. I've squeezed it a little bit. It goes all over the place. Maybe you need an apron too. And I've collected it in my spice jar. What I have here then is the guts of the cell, including the DNA, the RNA, and the protein. And we want to get out the DNA. I go to the freezer where I have previously frozen my isopropyl alcohol. And I'm going to add an equal volume, or if this is 1 centimeter of extract, I'm going to layer on top of my aqueous solution containing DNA. I'm going to layer 1 centimeter of isopropyl alcohol, 70%. And I do this by tilting them both and letting it slide down. This is where your feet start to smell like alcohol. And I'm demonstrating This technique, we don't want to mix the layers. We want to keep them separate. And woohoo, I did that. We have to let that sit for a couple of minutes, and then using a coffee stir stick, I'm going to pull the DNA from the aqueous or pink layer into the clear or alcohol layer, and I will be able to extract my DNA. When the DNA is extracted, I get a wad of DNA, and I have this showing behind me. This wad of DNA on the end of my stick looks like snot, but it's not. It is DNA mixed with other things. It's not pure, but man, it sure is fun to make a DNA extraction with your loved ones. Why don't you get some supplies together and extract DNA with your favorite children this weekend? Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
You're muted, Toastmaster.
I've been so conscious of turning my microphone off so as to not create feedback during your presentation. At this point, we're going to turn over the stage to Graham Carnes, who is our topic master for today. Go ahead, Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests. I see by the clock that I have about 15 minutes for the table topics session. And I see by the number of people in this room that if I were to give everybody 2 minutes to do their table topics, there'd be a whole lot of people who wouldn't get a chance to speak. So since I hate to have a situation where people leave a meeting without having spoken, I'm going to make a summary decision and say, Madam Timekeeper, can we have lights at 45 seconds, 1 minute, and 1 minute 15. So topics participants, you're asked to speak for between 45 seconds and 1 minute 15. You've got till 1:30. Okay. And I think I'm getting reverb from Pamela. No, it's gone. Good. All right. So the theme for today's meeting is resilience, hence the plant growing in a desert beside me, being resilient. So most of our questions are going to be related to resilience or to the this too shall pass. I'm going to start with Carolina. And Carolina, can you, for between 45 seconds and 1 minute and a quarter, tell us an example of resilience from your work life, either resilience you've shown or somebody in your work life has shown. So an example of resilience from your work life, Carolina.
Thank you for your question, Graham. I think an example about resilience is when you're working on projects, because I'm working for projects for the mining industry. And sometimes I'm assigned to a specific project and the result of the project is not so good. And then we have to start again. And sometimes we have to work until 4 a.m. and then 2 a.m. and continue working and continue putting all the energy and just to change the outcome, just to make things better, just to get the results we are looking for. And I think that that is a well example of resilience when you are working as a team, or when you are trying to achieve a goal and you cannot reach that goal, then it's when you apply all the resilience in your work, in your goals, and put all the energy and go for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Carolina. Excellent example of resilience in the work life. Now I'm going to ask a question that's probably unfair, because the oldest member of this club is Marty. And so I'm going to ask him a question that takes him right back to his childhood. So he's got to remember further back than the rest of us. Marty, I want you to tell us of an example of resilience as a child, either from your childhood or that you've observed in children. Resilience as a child. Marty, and you're still muted. You're muted, Marty. Marty. Sorry.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, resilience. I, as a child, had one interesting year that gave me a chance to really demonstrate resilience. I call it now the year where I was sick. And it was a year when I came home from a day camp complaining of a stiff neck. My neck hurt. My parents took me to the doctor, and the doctor took one look at me and said, "You are going to the hospital." I went to the hospital. I had polio, which you may recall many years ago, and before the vaccines came along, was one of the major killers. But I was lucky. I had a mild case. And after 2 months, one in the hospital, one recuperating at home, I woke up one day and discovered I had problems. And guess what? I had scarlet fever. And I was just mighty lucky that I did not wind up with a heart problem. But I'm done. I'm alive. Back to you, Topics Master.
Thank you, Marty. And I am so very glad that you were resilient for both of those, because we genuinely value your participation here. And thank you, Marty, for that. I have to say, I didn't realize, by the way, scarlet fever, which is, after all is said and done, merely a variation of strep A. I didn't realize that strep A actually killed more people than flu worldwide. It's extraordinary. Anyway, moving on. Resilience in sport. Now, Kieran, you're a guest, and I have no idea whether you are a sports fan, a sports player, a sports watcher, but I want you to tell me about resilience in sport. Kieran.
Thank you, Topic Master. So I believe one needs resilience, especially in running a marathon. Because what happens when you're running a marathon, I'm a marathon runner. And so when you get to the 17th mile or something, your brain is going like, what are you doing? Like, why don't you stop? It's ridiculous. What are you going to get? All the fast runners are already gone. You're not going to win anyway. And so it's a matter of getting to a point where you have a mindset shift. And so I do believe in sports that it is, and what I've learned from doing that, it's just about trusting and believing a mindset that one can get there. And so, just staying on the breath and moving forward. But I think for a lot of runners is in that space where your musculoskeletal frame is so exhausted, where then it becomes you're running primarily just with the brain and just with the resilience that you can, and believing that you can.
Thank you, Kieran. That is an excellent response. And I have to say, I've only ever run one marathon. So those who say that I run marathons, plural, you have my undying admiration. Gonna flip the coin around now and ask Shirley a question. When is resilience not a good idea? Shirley, when is resilience not a good idea?
Gee, I had my whole speech already. Now you ask me a question I can't figure out.
Well, you can always flip it around and talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's the rules of table topics.
Okay, I'm gonna flip it around. And I have to tell you really quick that I am from Florida, but my vacations, I love the mountains. And Florida is flat. So I saw this mountain, Mount Shasta in Northern California, and it's one of the 3 mountains that have circular clouds around it. They look like, they say, flying saucers. Okay, so I went on a spiritual journey there. Now, I didn't know about mountains in the experience I had. But anyway, the first little hike was to go to see this waterfall. Now, the mountains were not like this. They were like that, if you can see it. Now that's pretty steep for a person like me trying to hike it. And I was always last, but I had resilience to complete this. And I can remember one time, honey, I ran out of breath. I couldn't do it. And I learned to hug a tree on the side. I held onto that tree and it saved me. And then I continued on. But I will always remember the moment the tree loved me, helped me up the mountain.
Thank you, Shirley.
I was resilient. Thank you.
Thank you. Delightful story. I have to say, I love Mount Shasta. I mean, I love the way it looks. I love driving past Mount Shasta, and I love Shasta soft drinks, but that's as close as I'm ever getting to climbing that mountain. Kay, a question for you, if I may. Someone who inspires you because of their resilience. So, Kay, someone who inspires you because of their resilience. Actually, is Kay still here? I think Kay may have left. In that case, I'm going to shift that question on to Krishan, somebody who inspires you because of their resilience.
I'm very tempted to say it's the man of tomorrow from Australia. But there's so many people, Graham. Thank you for the question. I would say my wife inspires me because she can bear with me. That speaks loads in terms of resilience. I know for sure she loves me more than I love her. That's for sure. That's a given. I'm so happy she can't listen on that. But when I look at how she puts up with me, how she looks after our kids, the amount of energy, of sacrifice, of love she puts into it. I mean, she has to do it every single day. I mean, she has to bear with me and the kids every single day. And the kids have taken after me, all cheeky and playful and not caring about anything. So she's got not one, but 3 kids to handle. But I think at the moment in my life, she's the one who represents resilience, what it means to be resilient in family, because family is the toughest team you can have. But if everyone is aligned, and with that kind of mother and spouse, yeah, it's aligned. Resilience is the glue that brings everyone together. Yeah, so back to you.
Thank you, Krishan. You are so right. Only time for one more. And this is a variation on resilience. The word resile comes from resilience. And politicians often say, I do not resile from that position. I will not back away. But resile is one of those words that I hate. It's a waffle word. It doesn't actually say what it means. It's just, I'm not going to say what I really want to mean. Carl, I want you to tell me what politician waffle words annoy you more than any others. Carl Walsh.
Well, there are so many words and combinations of words that politicians use that tend to rile me. I think perhaps the most important one is trust me. Whenever that happens, my hand goes to my wallet and I walk the other way. So often the promises are made, and very often, actually, a lot of times I think they actually intend to keep them. But if they looked at how the government works, they would realize they can't. So they make the promises and then they don't keep them. So trust me. That's probably the key phrase that maybe they're selling a little too hard. Back to you, Table Topics Master.
Fabulous. Thank you, Carl. Thank you for that. And we trust that you won't ask us to trust you, or if we do, we will have a reason.
Oh,
On that
trust
note,
me, I never will.
on that note, I'm going to hand control of the meeting now back to our Toastmaster of the day. Here's Andy Bunn.
Thank you
You're
very
still
much,
muted.
Graham. We really appreciated the excellent job that you've done. At this point in time, Antoinette is going to be entering into the chat the times for the speakers and the time and names for the table topics, participants. And while we're looking at that, please vote and send your vote to the vote counter, Rick Darling, while we go into the last, most important segment of our meeting, that of evaluation. At this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to General Evaluator Angela Heath. The floor is yours, Angela.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day. So this is a very important part of our meeting because as Toastmasters, one of our major goals, of course, is to learn how to speak better, and for online presenters to learn how to use this little square a little more effectively. So we treasure this part of the meeting and we're going to dive right in. The first part of our evaluation is around the prepared speeches. So we'll start with our first evaluator, Andre Smolenko, I messed that up, Smolenko, who will be evaluating Carol Prahinski. Over to Andre.
Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator. Most welcome members, guests, most importantly, Carol, what an icebreaker, what an engaging, humorous speech that you delivered to this club. I had a little chat with Carol beforehand, and I found out that her already eighth or probably ninth icebreaker, and you could see your experience and shine throughout your presentation. I'm going to mention a few things I particularly like, but your speech was really strong. And I'm going to make a few recommendations as well. I believe taking them on board could make your speech even more engaging. Few things striking straight away: preparation, delivery, eye contact, engagement with the audience, all those things packed nicely into your speech. You told us a story, introduced yourself, and you made particularly important comments to what Toastmasters means to you in your life. Excellent, engaging. At the same time, you mentioned that your speech could be adjusted for some undergraduate students. Bearing that in mind, I would open perhaps your speech with having an image, clear image of one of the celebrities from Love Island, or TikTokers dancing together, or bringing something crazy. In the way you did, you made a good fun out of your name, placing two vivid images and bringing people in. I really wanted to see what behind that bra. I wanted to see what behind other images. Quite clear, undergraduates guaranteed to love that. Another recommendation I would like to make is sometimes your speech felt to me personally a bit rushed, perhaps taking a bit more time. Sometimes saying less is saying more, in my view. Just choosing a few vivid images of the places you've traveled and telling a little bit more story. Again, bringing that sense of humor that shines throughout your speech is within you. That would engage the audience even more. Third recommendation I would like to make is conclusion. Just make it stronger, make it you, and make it more fun. For example, yes, you can do it with Carol Prahinski, with the bra, and some celebrity dancing. You get them there. Overall, Carol, really enjoy your speech. I can't wait for your icebreaker number 9, 10, 11, and so on. With few recommendations in mind, slowing down, adding a bit of sense of humor, maybe some body gestures, you will get there. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Excellent evaluation. Thank you so much. Our next evaluator is Jim Barber, and he is going to be evaluating Hector Farjat. Jim.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, my fellow Toastmasters, our guests, and especially, of course, Toastmaster and new member, Hector Cabrera. Hector, although this was your icebreaker from the motivational strategies path, I knew that this is about your 5th year in Toastmasters, so I fully expected you to have the fundamentals of Toastmasters presenting down pat, and you did. So I'm not even going to waste time with that on the evaluation. Instead, I thought I would focus on the fundamentals of video presenting, because I assume that's why you're here at Online Presenters. However, you nailed that also. It was incredible. Your eye contact with the camera, your background, your use of the visual frame, everything worked. It was like you had been here for a long time, not you were giving your icebreaker presentation. I was impressed. I decided to focus on those things that you were exceptional on, and that wasn't a problem there either. In 2 words, you have something that can't be taught, but many people, I would say everybody, aspires to have, in that style and presence. You use the video frame, you use the camera, and it was such a delight to see you. Your gestures are animated, your facial expressions are animated, your vocal variety, everything that you were doing on camera screamed that you were having a good time. And when you're having a good time, we're going to have a good time coming along with you. I was developing writer's cramp, writing down all the things that I liked about your presentation, but then I realized I had a problem because, to be fair, I really needed to come up with a suggestion for improvement, and I wasn't coming up with one. Fortunately, I did manage to come up with one suggestion. Nothing that you did wrong, it's simply a suggestion for how you could do it a little bit better. Given the nature of this presentation, you were telling us about yourself, and you were introducing your childhood and growing up and that sort of thing. And you did that wonderfully. But if you had, let's see if I can pull it up here. If you could have incorporated some snapshots into your presentation, just showing us a little bit about you, not because this is a technical presentation, but just to give us a little bit more about you visually, that would have enhanced your presentation. We could have gotten to know you a little bit better. That's the only suggestion that I've got. You are already an accomplished video presenter. You indicated that you want to be a professional speaker. You are well on your way. Les Brown would have been impressed. Madam General Evaluator.
Excellent. I'm impressed with our evaluators. And now we have our final evaluator for tonight. Li-Sing Zhu will be evaluating Emily Thompson. Over to you, Li-Sing.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters and guests, and Emily. I love every minute of your speech. I think you make such a process, which is highly technical, very interesting and entertaining. Your purpose of this project is about effective use of body language. I think in this aspect, you really nailed it. I see you have your bottles, you have your strawberry, you squeeze it, and you pour the solution into the bag, into bottle. And so you do all kinds of the actions, gestures, which are corresponding to what you have been describing. So I think that's very, very successful. your deliver without question is a huge success, and the process, each and every step is very clear, and you have very nice vocal variety, and your expression is simple and use very specific words such as the gut of the cell. I really love that. And at the end, you call for the action and to ask everybody to have the strawberry and to practice de-isolation for ourselves. I really took that in heart because I just picked up 10 pounds of strawberry last weekend. I'm going to try it with my daughter. I think the only thing I would say you can improve is that since it's a highly technical process and you use a lot of body language, I would assume that it would be better not to use virtual background, because when you use virtual background, some of those gesture or those prompts, bottles are not really come to focus sometimes. That's the only suggestion. Overall, it's an excellent speech and I look forward for your next one. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Those were excellent evaluators. I would ask the timekeeper to put the times for the evaluation in the chat, and also for you guys to vote for your favorite evaluators. We also have what we call functionary reports, and these are our helpers that make sure we stay on task. And our first report is going to be the grammarian, Marianne Grady. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Tonight, I've been listening for grammatical gems and any kind of mistakes. And as usual, our club doesn't make a lot of mistakes. But today we said a lot of things that kind of made me smile. David Carr used the word oogling, and if you'll check out the Facebook page, he made a good face with that word too, and the picture will be on the Facebook page. And I loved Carol's phonetic and pictorial pronunciation of Prahinski. I liked her phrase of cross-country dating. And Hector used a word, behemoth. I loved Hector's line, still a slave, but didn't own the shackles. I thought that was very poetic. And though not always polished as she usually is, Emily said so many things that just tickled my funny bone tonight. Open cell, busted membrane. Makes a mess, but it smells great. Your feet start to smell like alcohol, and it looks like snot, but it's not. Kieran said running in her mind, and Jim Barber said it screamed that you were having a good time. That is my report tonight. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Our next report will be for the watcher, David Carr. 1 minute, please.
Terrific. Well, I do want to give a compliment to Miss Pink Prahinski. That was enjoyable, and as a visual, you know, bras are funny, I guess, for, I don't know, juveniles like me. I did wonder what was going on with the subtitles or the auto speech to text that was going along the bottom of the slides. And my guess was that maybe that's something that you use when you're teaching, and it might have been left on by mistake in this session. A little bit distracting because sometimes the speech to text gets some words wrong, and so that's, you know, some comedy going on the end of the screen. Can I just ask you, Carol, was that intentional? Was that something you wanted to use tonight, or you were testing that?
No, I'm not testing it. I use it regularly in the classroom, but I've actually had a lot of Toastmasters tell me how much they appreciate it because they have a hard time hearing, and so this is helpful to them.
Oh, interesting. Because I was wondering how helpful it would be, because we're not doing it for the whole meeting. Moving on, Hector, your facial expressions were the best visual effects you could have possibly brought into this meeting. And people sometimes talk about how online meetings aren't as good, unless you stand up to give your speech, it's not as good. But that you can really use speaking closely to the camera to powerful effect. And you did that, Hector. You made the most use of this frame that you had to give. You were sitting down, but you were very expressive and really held our attention very powerfully. And also not strictly a visual, but you took us on a journey with the words that you used as well.
David, I'm going to have to cut your report short because we've got a ton of announcements at the end, but thank you so much.
All right.
Our next report for 1 minute is the counter. April, passing it over to you.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. During today's meeting, the commonly used interjections as well as filler words, we had ands and so's. We also had quite a few ahs and ums, and then I'm now saying ahs or and with the overuse of the words I and so, don't forget about the power of the pause. That's something that I use myself when doing presentations at work, pausing instead of using crutch words. So just learning to, just like a little tip, to embrace the power of the pause instead of using a crutch word. So slowing down in order to try to help use and to avoid using the filler words. Like for instance, half of the, when I used the log sheet, half of the words used tonight were between and so. And then the other quarter were ahs. And if you're wanting me to send you your ahs or ums or any filler words, I can send it to you private message, or if you want to listen to the replay to report your own, that's perfectly fine. Just let me know. And back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, April. Our final report is going to be the chat monitor. Lucas, for 1 minute, please.
All right, thank you very much. Let's start off with the things that I pulled away from the chat. First of all, a lot of warm welcomes to Hector, as he is our new Online Presenters member. Lou is trying to get some collaborators for the Online Presenters breakout session, so he posted his email in the chat. There was also a post for the VTM Con Facebook group posted by Andre. Join that for some good fun and promotion for the event. Christian shared the purposes of each speaker's projects, which was very beneficial. Emily shared her DNA extraction Word document, which I believe includes the materials and instructions for the DNA extraction. And finally, Elaine shared the official VTMCon background link, which includes the general one, as well as some other ones if you're part of a team or leading a group. That concludes my report. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you guys so much. And if you have not voted, time is winding down for your vote. In terms of the General Evaluators report, I'll just say a couple things. Thank you so much, Elaine, for putting the link for the backgrounds. It would be great if we can, for us maybe at the next meeting to all have our backgrounds sparkling. I noticed that quite a few of us were drinking coffee, tea, and water. And I didn't know if that was a no-no or not. So I just joined in with the crowd and took a sip of mine, but maybe somebody can give us some insight into should we be sipping on our coffee during the meeting or not. I also would suggest that we save all of the announcements until the end so that we don't have to rush through, because we're rushing now and we have quite a few announcements to make. And with that, I will turn it over to the Toastmaster of the day for the big announcement. And I know we have some other interesting things to share. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much for a great job as Journal Evaluator. At this time, I'm going to turn the platform over to our vote counter, Rick, for him to share who the winners were from tonight's session.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to weigh in and say that Krishnan, you need to share that video with your wife, even though I have to announce that Kieran Hall has been our table topics winner tonight. Let's give her a round. Our best evaluator, Jim Barber. Congratulations, Jim. And our best speaker was Hector. Excellent job, Hector. Back to you, Andrew.
Thank you very
Go
much.
Hector!
Congratulations to all the participants and all the winners. We are very excited for each and every one of you. And we're very excited for having all the guests that we had. And you can see that in this online format, it's 2 minutes to the end, 9 o'clock when we end. And we have a full throttled enjoyment, fun taking place with 3 speakers, 3 evaluators, table topics. We got it all fit in. And because you all came early, you got to meet the other members of the club and learn a little bit about them. That's the value of meeting a half hour before the meeting begins. And for those that are unaware, when we end at 9 o'clock exactly, we will also stay on this Zoom room for a little while for those that want to socialize afterwards. At this point, my responsibilities have been concluded, and I turn it over to Lou Brown to provide any additional information items that he wants to share. Is Lou still here?
And I believe Lou has dropped off. He has left the room for maybe internet issue at his end. So I'll take over. Thank you so much, Toastmaster of the evening, Andrew Byrne. Please unmute yourself and give him a big, big, big round of applause. Thank you, Andrew. Let's hear the cheers.
Well done.
All right, so I have a few announcements to make. First of all, I'd like to invite our VP PR, Elaine Nieberding, to share one announcement. Elaine, over to you.
Okay, in my 15 seconds, my final Online Presenters Press newsletter will be coming out within the next 2 weeks. My invitation to you is please send to me speakerelaine@gmail.com. If you have any achievements of the last 2 months, pathways achievements, other things of distinctions, things you'd like to say rah rah about as the year comes to a close, send them my way. We want to cheer everybody on, not jeer everybody on. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam VP PR. So on behalf of our VP membership, Lou Brown, please reach out to him if and when you want to participate in the breakout moment for VTMCon 2021. He is currently leading on that, talking about VTMCon 2021. Next week at 7 p.m. Eastern time, we will have our webinar contestant come and deliver her speech and get your feedback. Now, I'm going to ask online presenters a question. Do you like to win? Do you like to win? If you like to win, all right. So we want the club to win, right? I just want to hear a big yes. I want to win. I want my club to win. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
I want my club to win.
OP, we want OP to win.
Yes, yes.
Great. So show up early next week at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to hear our contestant Angela Heath deliver her speech, and let's be there to give her a maximum of feedback as much as we can. That session will run for 30 minutes. So having said that, one more announcement. We are going to have a speakathon on the 31st of May, not next week, on the 31st of May. And the special event that we had planned for May is now being postponed for June. So watch out for that update. That's all I had to share. Reminder, one more reminder, Lee Sing Zhu is our Toastmasters for next week. Watch out for the emails and do participate as much as possible. Update your speech details on the website for next week. Now, I'd like to hear from some of our guests. Let's hear from them in the following order that I have them on my screen. Shirley Rowell, and you just unmuted yourself. You knew I was coming to you. Shirley, how was the meeting, and will we see you again?
It was a delight to have so many people so organized And I noticed that your times are short, but people stick to it, and you have extra roles. I've learned a lot from your club, and now I'll take it back to mine and see if they want to try new things and see how we can grow. But thank you for having me, and I may be back again.
Ooh, what a delight. Thank you so much, Shirley. It was a pleasure to have you. Let's hear from Carolina. How was the meeting for you, and will we see you again?
Very good meeting, very professional. Since I don't have the opportunity to participate in a meeting like this in my country, I'm forced to go online, but I love the meeting and I would like to join the club. Thanks for having me.
Great. So I'm going to post the email address of my VP membership, Lou Brown, in the chat in a few minutes. You can send him an email. Awesome. Thank you, Carrera. And let's hear from our table topics winner for this evening. Karen Hall, over to you, madam.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I also wanted to say thank you to Andy Byrne, because I actually met him at a contest, District 48 last week, and he told me about this club. So I want to say thank you, Andy, for extending the invitation. Tonight, the speakers were fantastic, super professional. I love it, and I definitely will be back. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, madam. And thank you, Andrew, for doing all the promo for the club. On this note, we are out of time by 3 minutes. I'm going to invite the Sorority at Arms to stop the recording, but I'd like to hear